Welcome to episode 23 of the Empowered Mothers Network podcast, supporting mothers to be the best version of themselves. I am Sarah, and this episode is called The Present Moment, Finding Calm and Clarity in Motherhood. So whether you're calling it connecting with the present moment, being in the moment, mindfulness, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the small changes and moments you can have in your day that you can make and make as a mother, so amongst the demands of daily life, and finding those moments and how we can start to introduce them into our lives. So I think there's a lot of stuff now in the media about kind of mindfulness, present moment. You know, a lot of people will have read The Power of Now. You've got unlimited stuff about mindfulness. There's many apps now on your phone that will help you to do mindfulness meditations. So most of us, to one degree or another, have come across mindfulness and this concept of being in the present moment and know that it has benefits for us. And I think a lot of us as mothers will also have that side of us that's like, well, we're all incredibly busy. We have so many demands placed upon our time that sometimes being in the present moment seems just like an impossibility. Or the other aspects of it where, especially with young children again, if you may well have lots of sort of space and time to be in the present moment, but it's not necessarily somewhere that you feel like being because it feels boring and it feels monotonous and your mind is naturally drifting away to somewhere else. So as mothers, we have that kind of aspect of it to deal with in a way, I don't know if you want to say overcome's the right word, but there's certainly that aspect of the busyness and the not necessarily wanting to be in that place. But the benefits are that if we can practice some form of mindfulness or just being in the present moment as it is, there is quite an ability to reduce stress and also bring clarity and increase joy in motherhood. So there's plenty of benefits, and whether or not we're fully aware of all the benefits, because there are deeper benefits to it, which I will go into a little bit later on. It's difficult to, even if we're aware of the benefits, to really kind of balance that with the perceived limitations and hurdles we have to get over to get to something as intellectually simple as being in the present moment, but in practicality it can be so difficult. So let's talk a little bit about why the present moment is so important. So first off, I think when you say, you need to live more in the present moment, you need to be more in the now, it's dead easy to say that, and so we know it's there, and we know it's a good thing to be mindful because everyone keeps telling us. But maybe we need a bit more depth than people on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube just telling us that we need to be more in the present moment. Like, why? Why do we need to be more in the present moment? If we really break it down and start going all timey-wimey, then, essentially the present moment as we are right now is all that we have. Everything that's happened in our lives up until this point has gone, has already been done, and everything past this point that's yet to come has not happened yet. So when we're not in the present moment, we're either, and we are often quite either in one of these two places, where either we are too caught up in the past and what's happened, and that will manifest as feelings of regret, reflecting on the past, kind of chewing over what's happened, that regret or guilt or remorse or shame or something. A lot of negative emotions often come up because we are focusing too much on maybe what's happened in the past and how we could have done things differently and changed it. And, a little bit of self-reflection of, maybe I could have done this differently in this situation can be healthy. But it's when we get really bogged down in it and, we're generally then in that thought and feeling feedback loops. So you might notice then that you are getting certain thoughts about the past, and well, I should have done this differently, I shouldn't have done this, why did I say this? And then those thoughts will continue on and start manifesting as like negative emotions like guilt and shame and whatnot. And then you get stuck in that loop of then the feelings feed more thoughts. So yeah, a lot of the time we can be stuck in the past and just constantly chewing over things that have happened. And the other side of the spectrum is the future. So many of us are in probably more, a lot of us could say, right, well, what's been has been, there's nothing we can do about that. But then we will be the ones who are stuck sort of worrying about the future. And maybe you're the sort of person who kind of makes up scenarios in the head of what might occur. If you are going to an appointment or a meeting or something in a few weeks' time, you might start, running through little scenarios in your head of what's going to happen when you get there. You might start running through imagined conversations that you're going to have with people. If you feel like you're going to get into a conflict with somebody, you might run through what arguments you're going to have for them. And all of this energy is then going into a future that hasn't occurred yet and might not occur how we are planning it out in our heads, and often doesn't. So yeah, I think for a lot of us, we're aware of the benefits of trying to be present, but we are pulled maybe one way or the other, or both ways, past and future. We're often sort of pulled into those places and out of what we're trying to stay in. As a parent, staying in the present moment with children can be really challenging when the present moment is, your present moment might look like trying to read something or listen to something whilst you've got small people ripping each other to shreds in the background and arguing and fighting. Or you might be trying to concentrate on something and you've got somebody going, "Mummy, mummy, mummy," all the time. And that can be really then hard to be in the present moment. And I don't care how many, like parenting magazines and books and everything there are out there about it, it's still a difficult thing to do in the actual present moment in real life. It's easy peasy to read about it and intellectualize it and know that that's what you need to do, but the hard work is actually doing it, even though it's such a simple thing. But the good news is it won't always be like rock hard. I think the more you practice it, and it's a bit like say having a kid in charge of your brain, and at the beginning you will just find, if you can just get that awareness to start with before again worrying about whether you're in the present moment or not, because then you're not. If you can get that awareness of, oh, I'm thinking about the past, oh okay, my mind's going off there about thinking about what might happen in 3 days at this event. If you can get that awareness that your mind's gone either forwards or backwards in time as like the first stepping stone, then you can start to make a bit more progress with mindfulness. This is why mindfulness meditation is really useful, because if you get into that as like a daily practice, it's training your brain on a daily basis in that sort of ritual routine, kind of container of a ritual or routine, to practice being present. And if you do it every day, you're then training your brain at that time to become more present. And it's a skill, and it's like working a muscle. You keep working it, it's going to get better at its job. And then slowly over time, you might find that it spills out of that container, and then you start being able to practice mindfulness in your day-to-day life. As some examples of where it might be a little bit easier to cultivate mindfulness and be in the present moment are when you get out in nature, for example. A lot of us find it a lot easier if if we're outside, we're in nature, it's a lot easier there just naturally to be more aware of the present moment. So some of the benefits of mindfulness, particularly for mothers, are that you've got, it's been proven about mindfulness and lower stress levels as well. So lower stress levels is rather useful. We'll take that. Greater patience as well. So again, when you get, and I found this myself as well, when you get them moments where the kids are, you're trying to do something else and the kids are on at you shouting, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, mummy." Okay. If you're not in the present moment, or your brain's off thinking about something that might happen, or you're planning something. I'm often planning. I'm a planner. And I'm often sort of planning something. So therefore my mind, my attention, my energy is going into a future scenario because I'm planning it. And then my kids are trying to drag me back into the present moment with the requests and the demands. So the more you kind of practice being in the now, the more patience you tend to cultivate. It's just like a natural result of that. And then you'll find that you have like deeper connections with people as well in your family because you're more in the now and in the present. You have more availability. Your mind's not off somewhere else. And then because your mind's not off somewhere else, there's nobody trying to pull you out of being somewhere else, which then pulling out of somewhere else then results in those emotions that you have of usually frustration and annoyance and getting peed off. Why are you interrupting me again? And then when you come into that interaction peed off, then, there's inevitably going to be either an argument or somebody's feeling upset or someone's feeling annoyed, and it's just not feeling good. So practicing being in the now and being mindful is very useful in terms of having more patience, which is really, really a good thing to have and to cultivate, and also to kind of deepen connections with people around you. So talking about being present with children, obviously young children are like a really good example. They're masters of being in the now. You just look at like little kids and they're just so, they just naturally are in the present moment from one thing to another. There's no, they're not sitting there ruminating over whatever past they've had up to this point, and they're not really sat there so much worrying about the future, especially the younger end. I don't know, for me it's maybe my kids have got to sort of 6-7 years old and are starting to, you see that change, don't you, around that time where they're getting a bit more kind of conditioned as we are as adults, where they're starting to maybe think a little bit more about the future and one or two things in the past as well. They're becoming a little less maybe present than, say, a younger child of maybe 2, 3, 4, whatever. They hanging around with children that age, they're just so in the moment. They'll be doing one thing and then they're just off onto a completely different tangent. It's just gone. But whatever they're doing, they are right now. And sometimes to create a really good connection with your child, that's all you need. We worry too much nowadays about experiences for kids, keeping them entertained, making sure they have everything they want materially, and taking them on days out and going this place and that place and having this experience and that experience. And then sometimes, like, if you just slow down and be present and just hang out with them for a bit and go at their pace and focus on them, that can really kind of, it'll enhance the experience for them because they're getting that one-on-one full-on connection with you as the parent or the caregiver. And also for you, it helps you, again, to be around young children to really sort of snap back into the present moment. So yeah, we've mentioned a few things that are like barriers to My voice is going very low now. Okay, I've mentioned a few things that are like barriers to being in the present moment, especially as a mother. So yeah, there's just this amount of constant stuff to do. So we've got the to-do list. We're trying to do more than one thing at once as well, and even when we are kind of having a bit of downtime, we're also struggling nowadays with being present because there are so many distractions. So you might get into the scroll fest of social media, and that's often quite a distraction that takes us out of the present moment. But modern motherhood is busy and there's so much going on, and we can just be from one place to another place. We need to go to that place, and we need to drop off such and such at this after school club, and then we need to take Doodah to wherever, and it's just this constant cycle going on, and you're kind of a lot of the time in your mind you've got the next thing that's happening in your day sort of half in your conscious mind, and you're sort of trying to plan how you're going to get from A to B, and that's where you're so focused on. It might not be the long-term future. I think when we say you're not in the present moment, you're focusing too much on the future, and we tend to perceive that future as the one that is right in the distance, that is like our 5, 10, 20-year plan or whatever. But it doesn't have to be like the long-term future. We're often, as mothers, we are often stuck in the very near future. So that may look for you like the next few hours or the next day, but that shorter scope of time. But it's still not the present moment, it's still the future. So I'm going to go over in a minute a few tips and practices that we can do as mothers, just to kind of, when distractions come up in day-to-day life, just to be able to kind of be aware of them, notice them, and try and let them go, as well as trying to allow and encourage more mindful moments in our day-to-day lives. I think, the vast majority of us will have a lot of thoughts going through our heads and worries, and it's these that, just as I said before, these that sort of take us in that feedback loop and knock us out of the present moment. Something I'm finding really useful myself is if you have looked at the work of Joe Dispenza, and again, because I love my science mixed with spirituality and putting it together, and I have done for years, and there's more and more stuff coming out now, which is ace. If you sort of look at he's got a few books and there's some meditations as well. You can get the kind of watered down versions of the meditations on YouTube, but if you want the proper real deal, you've got to pay for those. But there are some quite good ones on YouTube and Spotify. But if you look into his work, he talks a lot about, he calls it the generous present moment. So the idea of, the past being something we cannot touch anymore, but also more on a scientific level, so that, if we've got these thoughts coming in of either past or future, so like an imagined future or the past that's already been, say you have an appointment next week, or say you've got a meeting with your boss in next week, and you don't know how it's going to go down. Your job might be at risk. You're not really sure if you're in trouble, or what you're not really sure the nature of the meeting. That's like a scenario where thoughts will then start flooding in. So you'll have all these thoughts come into your head, what is this about? Am I in trouble? Am I going to lose my job? You start getting negative thoughts like that in, then you will start having the feelings you might feel fear, worry, annoyance if you don't feel like you've done anything wrong. So those negative emotions will then be coming up in your body, and you will be feeling them right now about a perceived future that hasn't actually happened yet. And of course, once we feel these emotions, they are the ones that will bring up the physiological processes is in us right now. So, the anxiety will bring up our bodies to go into a stress response. And therefore our bodies believe that this situation is happening to us right now, because the body doesn't know any different. It's just doing what it's been, the mind's done its thoughts, the emotions have been produced, the body is just responding to those emotions, because that's all it knows. It doesn't know that your emotions and thoughts are about something that's going to happen next week. As far as your body knows, it's happening right now. So then your body becomes your mind, and you're living that stressed experience right now over something that may or may not play out like that. So yeah, if you haven't read any of his books, then I recommend that you have a look into those, because it's really interesting, the kind of science behind how the body kind of replies to what the mind is ruminating on. And so how, again, there's also the link where he talks about, and it's so popular nowadays, where we, create our own reality and manifest. And I've talked before about my jibes with the law of attraction as it's kind of portrayed throughout like social media and whatnot nowadays, like a bit of a ordering takeaway service. But he does talk about how, if we want to co-create, we want to manifest our own reality and our own future that maybe isn't right here, right now, but we want to manifest something in the future, but we've got to be in the now. So it seems like a paradox, but he does talk about the ways that we can do that through kind of training the body, and the elevated emotions that we can cultivate, and how we can only really co-create what we want in the future and our future self to be in the present moment, if we are truly in the present moment now. So again, I've probably not done a very good job of explaining that, but yeah, do read some of his books and it will go into that a bit more. So that's really useful in kind of the why we need to be in the present moment as well, if we want to, make the best of ourselves and be the best version of ourselves, how important it is to be in the present moment. And as I said, it's a constant learning and ongoing process of just being aware and noticing and coming back to it again and again and again. I've been doing meditations every day for years, and I still feel like I'm kind of nowhere near where I would intellectually like to be. So I don't think it is I think it's like a never-ending journey, isn't it? There's no destination that we're ever going to get to, but it's a process. So some short exercises, because we like to have something we can actually do rather than just talk about being in the present moment, but to ground down and get into the now. The first and easiest and simplest thing to do is focusing on the breath. So as with many things, if you're in a bit of a bind and you don't know what to do, the kind of go-to thing is just focusing on your breathing. So just kind of, if you can, stop everything that you're doing practically. If not, then maybe slowing it down a little bit, or just getting a little bit more in tune with your breath at the same time, but stopping or slowing down to take, say, 3 slow and deep breaths, just to reconnect with your body. And as you do that, you may then become a bit more aware of how your body's responding to these thoughts and feelings that are going on. You may notice then sensations in your body, like anxiety or worry or fear or something and then you can start to question, well, if I'm in the present moment, then do I need to feel that feeling, and do I need to have that bodily response right now to this moment? So something else you can do as well, which is often recommended for people who are suffering with anxiety or panic attacks, is the sensory check-ins. So that's where you notice 5 things you can see around you, or 4 things you can touch, maybe 3 things you can hear, just to, again, connect back in with the body right now, and through the senses, and just to ground yourself. And another little exercise you can do either at the same time every day maybe, or just throughout the day as and when, is just taking a moment to kind of notice something in your life, or appreciate something, or have little moments of like gratitude in your day. So a lot of people will do this like at the end of the day. Maybe you do a little bit of journaling and you can write down 3 things that you're grateful for, which again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really get you in the present moment as much. It's more a reflection then on things that you were grateful for throughout the day. Whereas if you can find a few moments to, maybe you'll focus on your breath first, and that will bring you back into the present moment. And then you can look around for a few things to bring you back into your body. And then you could notice something and say, oh, I'm really grateful that that's there, or I'm really grateful that this person's here. And then looking for those moments, as I said, to sort of have like a container for a place where you can almost train your brain to be present, to be mindful. So that container might be, you might get the luxury of having like a daily meditation where you've got, I used to have 10 minutes, put my son down for a nap, and then as he was falling to sleep, I'd go in the other room and have 10 minutes meditation, mindfulness meditation, and that would be the same thing every day at the same time. And that went on for a few years. It's only just kind of started stopping now because he's dropped his nap. So now I'm a bit like, I sometimes get them in still, but sometimes because the daily routine's changed a bit, it's all gone a bit off whack. So I'm moving into more doing them at night now, but then sometimes I fall asleep. So if you can find some like little container, and it doesn't have to be a full-on lie-down meditation where zone out. It could be like when you're doing the washing up is a good one. You can do things like mindful washing up, so just really being present with what you're doing and maybe the sensations you're feeling in your body as you wash up. And then another good one, well, you've got driving, which you can do to an extent, but at the same time you still want to concentrate on the actual act of driving. But then that's being present. So yeah, as long as you're not focusing too much on your inner world, being present in that one, and more on what you're doing in terms of driving. There's also, like if you have a cup of coffee in the morning or something like that, just those little things, moments you have throughout the day where maybe you could start using them to just... Eating's a good one. If you're having a meal, because then that's a double whammy, because you're also kind of paying attention to what you're eating and how you're eating it, and that can also help reconnecting with your body whilst you're eating, can help you with listening to your body in terms of like if it's full and you need to stop eating, or if it's hungry and you need to eat more, and not rushing your food and therefore giving you gas and all sorts. So yeah, if you can do it around things like either washing up or having a cup of coffee or eating a meal, and be prepared that you won't get the perfect moments to do it as well. I think we'd all love to be on our own in silence to get all this practice in, but a lot of the time life is happening. Oh, there goes my light. Sorry for YouTube viewers, the light's gone. It's a lot of time life is happening, and there'll be like a hell of a lot of noise around you, so it can be hard to be present, but that can be like an interesting part of the challenge. So yeah, mindfulness, being in the present moment, is a habit. We've got to keep practicing it. It's like it's, as I said, it's always like evolving, and it's never going to be perfect. So being okay with that, the perfectionists in the room here, okay, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to be, constantly in the moment, or it's not going to happen like that. But it's got so many benefits for you. to connect with people around you, and it is something that will take time and practice, and it's just like training a muscle as well. And also when you're practicing being present, I think you've got to have a good dose of self-compassion as well, because you will just constantly, your brain just constantly wants to come out of it and go and back to the past or go off into the future, because there's so many things to do, and your brain's like, oh, I need to forward plan all this because I'm not doing my job otherwise. So you will fall off the wagon constantly, and so then you have to have a good dose of self-compassion and not beat yourself up about it, otherwise you're then getting stuck in another loop of thought and feeling. And yeah, even if you just get little shifts in your thinking, that can lead to big changes over time, and you don't often notice, especially with these little moments day on day, you don't really notice that anything's happened or anything's changed until maybe a few years down the line, and then you look back and realise that actually maybe you're sort of moving more into a reality or a version of yourself that is kind of where you were aiming to be, but you didn't. It happened so subtly and so subtly that you don't notice at the time because you're too busy being in the present moment, hopefully. So yeah, homework for this podcast is to experiment with one small present and moment awareness tool this week. So whether you take the time to have that little container place where washing up, eating, whatever you want to use that to kind of get mindful, or whether you want to do it more as and when, coming back to the breath, or if you have any other tips as well, just kind of practicing one little thing this week. What one little thing could you practice just to get a little bit more in the moment? So if you have any practices or techniques you use to just be in the present moment, then please share them in the comments below, because they might be really useful for other people who are listening or watching. I've shared a few of mine. I try with the eating, but I think that, again, that's probably what I'm going to try again this week, because I used to be practice sort of mindfully eating, but it's not happened so much for me recently, so I might try that one this week, just to get a little bit more present with things and see what happens from there, in the present moment, of course. So yeah, if you have any other comments, let me know. Otherwise, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and then get up to date with the latest podcast. The best way at the moment to join us, if you want to join the Empowered Mothers Network, is you can sign up on the homepage of the website, and then you will get the fortnightly EMN journal emailed to you, and that also includes the latest podcast episode, because they're released every fortnight. These podcasts at the moment, this will probably be going on YouTube about a month after I record it, so by the time this goes onto YouTube, fingers crossed, the audio version of the podcast should then be in sync and up to date with the video version. So if you're getting it on like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, they were a little bit behind, but by the time this has gone out, they should have caught up and be up to date with the latest episode. So yeah, if you want to join us, please feel free to join us. Otherwise, I will see you for the next podcast episode.